So then we got an in-ring promo with Roman and Paul and Solo. And have you noticed now, especially when he turns sideways, Paul looks like he's had what little hair he has left drawn on his head with a Sharpie.
Well, I think he dyes what hair he has left.
But
black.
he's dyeing most of the hair on the sides of his bulbous bison head.
Will you stop it?
You know, I'm just saying it. He's got that profile of like a bison where he's got the hump on it. But he's dyeing it black, but then he's putting in like the greasy kid stuff or whatever, because instead of individual hairs, you see giant, thick black bands, like 4 or 5 of them. And it's hair stuck together, so it looks like it's drawn on with a Sharpie.
Maybe.
But anyway, so Roman says to Paul, where's Jimmy? And Paul says, I don't know, I haven't talked to him. And Roman's not happy about that. But suddenly, Jimmy appears at ringside and comes into the ring. And we will recall that Jimmy is the one who pulled his brother Jey out of the ring and cost him the win at SummerSlam, and et cetera, et cetera. And Roman tells Jimmy, don't worry about these fans. They don't matter. I owe you one. You name it. What do you want? You want money? You want a car? You want a boat, a yacht, a jet? I believe the money, the car, even the boat, the yacht maybe, but a jet, I don't know if he's willing to go that far. But Jimmy didn't want anything, because what he did, and this is the explanation we've all been waiting for, what he did had nothing to do with Roman Reigns. And Roman's like, well, that's ridiculous. I run this place. It's all about me. So you don't want the material thing. You want power? You want to be the new right-hand man? And right as he says that, Jey Uso's music plays, and Jey comes down. And now Jimmy and Jey are in the ring face to face. Face to face, they faced each other, stuck out their bellies and run at each other. That's an old Big Bad John interview. And then Jey demanded to know why, Jimmy, why? And Brian, this is where that Jimmy explained why that when Roman attacked Jimmy and sent him to the hospital, and Jey decided to get even for the hospitalization of his twin brother by coming and beating Roman and taking the tribal chiefness away from him so that he couldn't bully all the rest of the family anymore, Jimmy says that he screwed Jey out of that because he loves Jey. It wasn't jealousy. I was afraid to lose you. If you were the tribal chief, what happens to the Usos? Would power make you like him, like Roman Reigns, make you misuse people and mistreat people? I didn't want you to be an asshole like him. Brian, is it a good enough reason that your twin brother would stab you in the back and physically attack you because he was afraid that you weren't going to be his partner anymore, that you were going to progress to be a big star on your own? And even though he's fighting for redemption for you, for the guy that hospitalized you, he's thinking about himself and the tag team situation and would rather fuck you out of getting ahead so that you would stay with him? Is that a good reason?
Unfortunately, maybe the only good reason they have, but it's not a good reason. And if I'm Jey Uso, I'm saying, why didn't you call me on Sunday?
Yeah.
Why did I have to wait until today in front of everyone for you to say all this shit?
I know, it's like when Austin stomped a mud hole in people. I said the kicks looked like shit, but it didn't matter because he's over. These explanations in the Bloodline angle, if you just sit down and listen to them and overlook the performance and just listen to the root cause behind it, they're getting a little thin. But it's over, so the people don't care.
It's getting really thin. And again, it's the same people and Heyman each and every week on this thing. And I said coming out of SummerSlam, it feels like they may have jumped the shark. I heard from some other people who said the exact same thing and had the same thought at the same time. This didn't do anything to convince me otherwise yet.
Well, I did write that I don't think the fans in the arena are necessarily buying the reason either. There was kind of like listening, but not really Anyway, Jimmy finally offers his face for Jey to kick in, if that'll make you happy, right? And Jey instead just turns his back on Jimmy. And so Jimmy hangs his head and leaves. And then Roman laughs at Jey and says, I told you so. You're stupid. You're a hothead. And he starts to tell Jey to acknowledge him. And that's when Jey super kicks Roman. And Solo jumps on Jey. And Roman's back up and his Superman punch to Jey. And then runs into Jey's super kick and spear. And so now the heels have been routed and they just, Roman and Solo roll out and completely disappear. And Jey tells Jimmy, come back, Shane, Jimmy Shane. And Jey jumps out on the floor and Jimmy turns around and Jimmy comes back to Jey with his arms stretched out for a hug. And Jey super kicks the shit out of him. And then walks out of the arena through the assembled audience. And scene. I don't know if they're still liking it. They're still liking it, but I'm starting to be confused now. Maybe this whole thing is just the family has had problems before we knew about their problems, and everybody's been waiting to just kick the fucking mush into the other guy.
Heyman was always good at having ideas. He was never good at having an ending for the ideas. We'll see what happens here.
He never had a fucking good go home spot, did he?
No.
It was always, it would go on and on and on until finally something else happened that made you forget about shit. And it would just kind of go somewhere else.
Tommy Dreamer pile drive Beulah nonstop. And then she announced she's pregnant with his baby. And then she announced that she was a lesbian and she's no longer pregnant. It was just nothing made any sense, but it worked because it was the 90s and it was ECW. We'll see if they have anywhere to go with this.
She could have come out with a turkey baster.
She could have. She could have.
See, that's a loophole.
Well, there's a loophole, but the only part I really liked was when Roman said, and he got fired up, you're here to acknowledge me. That I liked. But the rest of this and the confusing explanation and why any of this is happening, it seems like they're running out of things to do until they get to wherever they're trying to go. Like they're running out of week-to-week ideas, but we'll see. But coming out of SummerSlam, they had to do something better, I think, for me, and this wasn't it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is the big shows are longer in between, but when you only have a few people that move the ratings or move the numbers, you've got to feature them as much as you can. And sometimes every week, what else are they going to say that needs to be said that hadn't already been said or done or whatever the case? And yeah, sometimes, but it's when you're having the twins fuck each other back and forth. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That's a movie. You know what? That's a movie I once saw out of Santa Monica.
The twins fucking each other back and forth?
These two girls, whatever. What were you going to say?
Oh, the Barbie twins. Remember them?
Yeah, they married, what's his name? From The Wanderers, Ken Wall.
Both of them?
I think one of them, but he was with both of them. It was kind of like, that was the deal.
Well, fuck that guy. But nevertheless.
He was fucking those girls.
Yeah, well, you know who needs a new job, a new line of work, needs to learn a trade, start a small business, something like that.
Who's that?
Jimmy Uso.
Oh.
I think he's gone and put himself in a bad place. He's figured out of the bloodline. He's not figured in with his brother anymore. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen? I think he needs to open a small business because then he could be affiliated with our friends at Box of Awesome, Brian. Because that's what the people at Box of Awesome do over at Bespoke Post. What they do is they curate carefully chosen merchandise, gear, and items from the best small brands and small businesses around the world and bring them to you on a mainstream platform. And it can be anything that you're interested in, any genre or subgenre. We've talked about, they've got everything from knives to cooking supplies to barbecue rub to mint julep cups, to do-it-yourself pizza kits, to hot sauces. I think they actually have parachutes. I don't know if they have them all the time, but they drop one in every now and then.
You know, I would usually shoot you down right about now, but Box of Awesome is so cool, and they send you such cool stuff, they may have parachutes.
Yes, you never know. You only know what you tell them, and that is what you do when you go to boxofawesome.com and you just take a little quiz to find out what you're interested in, what your tastes are, what your likes and dislikes are, and then every month a brand new box of awesomeness comes directly to your front door. Camping gear essentials, cookout must-haves, drinking game upgrades, a variety of things that can be used as personal defense weapons. Those knives are wicked looking. But all these things are made by small businesses and folks just like you and me, well, maybe just like you, that have started up their businesses, and now our friends at Bespoke Post through boxofawesome.com are bringing this to the consumer. And again, it's free to sign up. You can skip a month or cancel anytime you want to. And each box is valued at about $70 worth of items, but you only pay a mere fraction of that price. And you never know what they might come up with. Stacy, still using the Weekender bag, that incredible canvas and leather travel bag that has the classic styling, and she uses it to carry her painting supplies around as she is a budding artiste. But you can multi-purpose a variety of these things. What you do right now, go to boxofawesome.com, take the quiz, help them pick the right boxes of awesomeness for you, and the new box comes once a month, and you open it up and put all this cool stuff in your house. And you can get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up right now at boxofawesome.com and enter the code JCE at checkout. Boxofawesome.com. The code is JCE for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code JCE. 20% off. Brian, I thought we heard from the other guy that those 20% deals were a thing of the past, but you got it right here with Box of Awesome.
Box of Awesome takes care of the listeners.
They certainly do. They take care of them. If you need a listener taken care of,
that's not what I mean.
Put away,
they do a good job. No, they make our listeners happy with their fine products, or the fine product that they curate and send to us.
That's right. They say, looky here at this fine product, and while their attention is diverted.
No, that's not what I mean.
You'll never see that son of a bitch again.
You will see him again. And if you don't, it has nothing to do with Box of Awesome.
They sometimes send out parts of these people in different boxes of awesome, depending on what your likes and dislikes are.
We were doing so well. We were so close to the end. There are no body parts in Box of Awesome. Only.
Did you see the news story of the guy and his son that picked up a hitchhiker?
Oh, no.
And picked up a hitchhiker. He was carrying a knapsack of some kind, and there was quite a smell coming from the fellow, and they dropped him off. This was, I believe it was in rural Georgia. They dropped him off, and then come to find out that one of the next towns over, this guy was wanted for murder. They were actively looking for him because he killed this guy and cut his head off, and apparently had the head in the knapsack. So don't pick up.
Isn't that a movie? I mean, is this a real news story? You're just talking about a movie you saw.
No, this is a real thing I saw on the TV news. It was 8 heads in the duffel bag.
Yeah.
But this was just one guy's head in a knapsack. But the guy with 8 heads in a duffel bag wasn't hitchhiking. But anyway.
Is there a difference between a knapsack and a book bag or a backpack?
Well, yeah, because if you got a knapsack, you're holding all your stuff you take naps in. Your pajamas, your sleeping cap, your sippy cup.
Is it the same bag, though? Is it the same kind of thing?
No, it's a different. You got a sack for naps and a sack for backs.
So you're saying a knapsack is different than a backpack?
A knapsack is much different than a backpack. A backpack could have school supplies and all kinds of, or heads.
Forget about that. I'm not talking about what's in it in terms of the actual structure of the apparatus.
I would think, a backpack would be different still than a knapsack. A knapsack doesn't have to be just limited to just being a backpack. A knapsack could be carried on your back or around your neck or on a stick over your shoulder.
Well, so could a backpack.
A knapsack on my back. See, you could have it on your back, but it doesn't need to be. Well, I guess you could wear a backpack on your front and cover up your dick, and that way if somebody kicked you in the balls, you'd have padding.
I don't know why you went there, but beyond all of this, if you want to get something awesome, Box of Awesome from our friends at Bespoke Post.
That's right. And if it smells, don't open it up because it's got somebody's head in it.
No, it does not. There are no heads in any of the packages they send out. There will be nothing smelling bad.
Make sure when you take the quiz, do not say that you enjoy collecting disembodied heads.
Well, you could say
that's
that.
That's all you got to do.
You can say that in the quiz, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get a disembodied head sent to you.
Well, no, because if you say that in the quiz, they'll know you're not a collector, and they'll send the heads to somebody else. So make sure you say that. Boxofawesome.com, code JCE.
Box of Awesome!
Well, Brian, what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on at the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network this fine week?
Another fine week of programming on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. Of course, the wrestling news. Each and every day, get your free daily wrestling newscast every morning. Find out all the news, none of the opinion. Find out what's really happening. News you can trust from the wrestling news. Get it at thewrestlingnews.com directly or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News, approaching 1 full year of 365 days of daily wrestling coverage. Check it out today. The Wrestling News. Also want to make mention of this week's episode of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon at suawpod.com, available wherever you find your favorite shows. This week's guest, Mike Edison, formerly of Wrestling's Main Event magazine, formerly of High Times magazine, the author of several interesting and fun books. Hear this today, a fun conversation. Once again, suawpod.com or Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
How in the world did he not name that podcast The Wisdom of Solomon?
I don't know. That has not come up in any of our previous creative meetings over here at Last Man.
Apparently you're not very creative.
That's actually going to be his spin-off show, The Wisdom of Solomon.
We're saving it for last.
Once again, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, suawpod.com. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Hey, that's kind of puny. But there's no puny episodes in the canon of the Super Podcast. Go through the archive at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.
Yeah, there's no puny episodes in the can. That's where I listen to all those episodes of The Mothership, is in the can.